There's a lot of fraud that goes on in the world of banking, and it could definitely affect you and your personal bank account. Like, are you familiar with phishing? And I don't mean the kind that you go to the ocean and you cast a line, not at all. We need to know about things so we can protect ourselves. So, if you want to know more about banking fraud, just stay tuned. Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Scan FYI. Yeah, this is an important topic, and we have the perfect guest today who's going to be able to really help us be a lot more aware. So, my guest today is Mike Powers. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you for having me.
A pleasure. And Mike is the president and CEO of Garden Savings Federal Credit Union. And you know what, Mike? Why don't you just give yourself a little, let everyone know a little bit about you and what is your role at the credit union?
Sure. Well, as you mentioned, I'm the president and CEO of Garden Savings, and I've been so for about 14, 15 months, but I've been in the credit union industry for 31 years. I've been in the marketing end, the lending end. I've held executive levels, and now I've been CEO here for just over a year, and everything is going well. I'm a lifelong New Jersey resident who lives in Middlesex County with my wife and daughter, who just got accepted to Monmouth University, I might add. So
Congrats.
that's where she'll be going. So other than that, yeah, I'm with Garden Savings Federal Credit Union, as I mentioned, and we are the credit union that is tied to SCAN. So anybody that's part of SCAN is eligible to join us.
Yes, absolutely. Garden Savings Federal Credit Union is one of our sponsors. We are very happy to have you, and I'm a customer, so
Yes, yes.
I, very happy to have you with me today. So our topic today is about fraud and banking, and sadly, we could talk about this for days on end and never be done with it. But let's get a little specific in our brief time together. What kinds of fraud specifically affect banking?
There's so much, as you might guess, people are the scammers out there in the world are really interested in banking because that's where people's money are. They know that you can get at money very quickly that way. And so they'll try just about anything from phone scams to the old-fashioned steal your mail scams, although those are less prevalent than they used to be. But the biggest way they try and do it now is through texting and phishing scams, through email phishing, phishing, as you mentioned in your intro, I saw. Yeah, so there are different ways, but they want to get your information, and that's the bottom line. Because if they can get your information, they can get into your banking, and that's where the trouble starts.
So if you're someone who keeps your money under, in your mattress, you don't have to worry about this. But for the rest of us that are using, the banking systems of the world, and we're constantly getting emails and texts, and how do you know? I mean, I see it all the time. Citibank,
Mhm.
also it looks so real. They're
Yeah.
always asking, of course, verify information, verify your address, verify your PIN, but it's not real.
Now, as unfortunately as these systems that we've all gotten so accustomed to get more sophisticated, our own systems, which are great, they provide a lot of convenience with online banking and debit cards and doing things via text. Those are all great things, but unfortunately, the more sophisticated the financial institutions get, the more sophisticated the fraudsters get.
Yeah.
And so they are constantly looking for that. When I talk to my own personal family about all these scams out there, particularly my parents and my aunt and people that didn't grow up with the technology that my generation and even the younger generation, forget it, they've got so much technology, but they didn't grow up with that technology. And so a lot of times I get questions about how come this bank texted me, or I don't think I'm a customer here, I should call them back. The answer is don't call them back. Don't reply to emails. If you don't give out information, they can't steal it, and that's really the big holistic picture here is if you're not working with them, if it's somebody that typically says we won't reach out to you, which our credit union will not reach out via all these means ever, ever, ever requesting your personal information via text or via email. Yeah, you have to be so careful with that. So my advice to people is if it seems like it could be something weird or why are they reaching out to me? there's a 99.9% chance it's not us or any other financial institution reaching out to you. So if somebody calls you, I would say, and you accidentally inadvertently pick it up, then I would say, tell them, I'll call you back. I have the bank's number or I have the credit union's number. You want to call them back at the numbers you have, not what they provide, because that's probably a fake phone number.
So I know that I guess, people need a lot of reinforcement. Uh, how many times has my bank said to me, "Oh, we will never ask you for personal information. We will never ask you to verify anything by text, by email." And I think this is true of any legitimate financial institution. Just like, guys, the IRS isn't going to text you, and it's not happening.
Right.
But we still need to remind people that no legit organization is going to text you
No,
or send you
it's
an email.
absolutely, it's a constant reminder, a constant, we have to do it regularly for people of all ages, but
Yeah,
particularly people that didn't grow up with technology.
right.
Um, we have to remind them, like even things that look like legitimate emails, they have ways now of faking the header, right? That say like it's from Garden Savings Federal Credit Union. But then if you roll your mouse over the address, you'll see it's like some bizarre address at like jkwd.com. It's not anything that's our address. And some really sophisticated scammers can even do that. So the bottom line is don't provide your information. That's what we really need to reinforce to the public at large is don't provide your information, because the minute you provide information, that's when the damage can occur.
You're done.
Yep.
You're
And so,
totally done.
and there's so many different ways they do it now. It could be the texting, as we mentioned. It could be the emails. I know of someone who used an unprotected Wi-Fi to do their online banking from an Atlantic City casino. And because they were on an unprotected Wi-Fi, instead of just you're always safer using your own plan. If you have an unlimited plan and you're not using up your minutes, don't turn on the Wi-Fi unless you have to, because a lot of those casino networks are dangerous. And so the person I know, somebody hacked in while she was visiting her online banking, was able to get into her accounts. By the time she got home from this conference she was at, they had already changed her mail address, turned off her phone. She couldn't even call anybody because they flipped the phone. So little things, in addition to not giving out your information, just take precautions. Easiest isn't always the best, right? And if easiest looks like the best, it may not be, it may be because it's not real.
Mike, what is your feeling about, there's a lot of people that put a tremendous amount of very private information on, let's say, Facebook or Instagram. And I always feel like if you don't put it out there, nobody's going to know about it. It gets there because you put it there. But
Right.
what do you want to say to these people that are really putting out their dog's name, their children, their grandchildren, the whole bit, everything.
Yeah, be careful. That's all. I mean, that's the best line is be careful because everybody is findable. I mean, you can do it with, you know, you can see they call it a digital footprint, right? So, I mean, I could type in your name and probably see within seconds if you have a digital footprint. Have you posted Facebook pictures that somebody maybe reposted? Have you done events for Scan where you posed for a
Oh,
picture?
yeah.
Your name and picture will probably come up within seconds. So if you're not comfortable putting with whatever information you're putting out there, don't put it out there, because once it's on social media, once it's on the web, people can and will find it if they want it. Now, is your dog's name a big deal? You might say, well, who cares if a fraudster knows my dog's name? Well, here's where it's a big deal. If that fraudster is trying to get into your account and your first test question is, what's my dog's name? You know, that's where you run into trouble.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. You're inadvertently giving clues to your passwords.
Yeah. Yeah. Very much so. You put out even like, God
Yeah.
forbid a relative pass away or something, and you have their maiden name on it. If it's a relative, people use mother's maiden name as their password
Yes.
a lot, things like that. And daughter's first name or daughter's date of birth. Happy birthday to my daughter today. And passwords are tied to dates of birth. You should always mix it up. And while people tell you, You've heard for years, don't keep a list of your passwords on your computer because people can hack it. The old-fashioned way of keeping a password list on a piece of paper that you know where it is, somewhere secure in your house, and mixing those passwords up is best. Because if you use the same password, there's another tip. Use the same password for everything you log into these days, and somebody gets your password once, they're going to try all the same sites that you do to try and access your money and try and access other personal information. And unfortunately, there are just a lot of bad actors in the world that, look for this kind of information to try and do something malicious with it.
Well, as sophisticated as we get, the bad guys, they're right behind us. They
Yeah.
know all the tricks very
They're
quickly.
sometimes ahead of us, unfortunately. And people, that's why we all as financial institutions have to invest so much money in fraud detection systems and hacking things. We have software here that tells us how many times people try and get into our systems a day. And we're a $425 million institution. You can only imagine how much they try and get into the banks because it's dozens of times a day they try and get into us and they get caught and blocked. But it's got to be thousands with the big banks that they try and get in. Thousands.
I don't know if I explained phishing well enough, and I just want you to, and again, we're not talking about the kind where you go on a pier and you drop your line,
Right.
PHISING. Just kind of give people a better explanation of what that all is to be very aware.
Yeah, well, in some ways it is like fishing, throwing a line into the water
Yeah,
and pulling the
yeah.
fish out. Unfortunately, we're the fish, not the people casting the line. So it's basically throwing something out to you that someone thinks you're going to click on. And then do you take the bait, right? That's how they get the term phishing. Are you taking the bait? And the bait is these emails that say, hey, listen, your account was hacked, log into here, or a text that says, verify your information here, or a text that says, congratulations, you won a $5,000 gift card from us. Give us a call at this number. It's our prize number. So phishing is basically doing anything they can to get information out of you. So you want to be very careful about falling for these scams. My aunt, who I mentioned before, she's a very smart woman, but she always asks me, do you think I should click on this one and tell them they've got the wrong person or call them back? And I'm like, no, don't ever do that. Don't ever do that. Delete these. There is an option if you have an Apple phone. I'm sure it's probably the same with the Samsung and the other models. But if you get an email that looks crummy, you swipe it to the left and you can say delete and report as junk. I do that on
Right,
all of
right.
those. So
Of
you do
course.
delete and report as junk. Now, do they have 8 million phone numbers registered, these scammers? Usually they do. They'll find another one to try and get you, but at least you block one, right? You make sure you don't have to deal with that one again. Because if it's your financial institution and it's something really important, we will find a way to contact you the right way. And we're not going to contact you and then say to you, we need all this information from you. Mother's maiden name, what's your password? Rule number one, don't ever provide your passwords because we, as the financial institution, we don't know your password. So we're not going to ask you for it. We're not going to say, what's your password? Let me put it in. We don't do that. So the minute someone's requesting your password, you know it's nonsense because the financial institutions aren't privy to your passwords. We don't have that data. That's secret even to us. Your logins, we know your username. We don't know your password. So
So really, the best defense is to simply ignore it, delete it.
yeah, ignore it or delete it right away. And we as a financial institution, we tell our customers, our members all the time, if you get something like that where they're using Garden Savings Federal Credit Union's name, let us know about it. I mean, we're not going to be able to stop them all, but we have some things in place that we at least can alert the other members not to do that because this is all about awareness, right? And if you're aware of the bad things that people are trying to do out there and the information they're trying to procure, then you're not going to provide it. But you mentioned earlier keeping money under a mattress, which we never recommend that only because, I mean, I'm very familiar that some people still do things that way. And I guess everybody probably keeps a couple bucks that way, but that's a dangerous way to live too. But just like that, I mean, if somebody knocked on your door and said, you know what, I know you had $1,000 under your mattress. Can you show it to me? Because I just want to verify that 1,000 is there. You're not going to go say, "Oh yeah, I keep that under this mattress in
Yeah,
this
go
room. Here it is."
on
And
in.
that's the same
Mhm.
thing. We need to adapt to that mentality with digital banking and texting and phone calls and phishing scams. we need to have that mentality of, if somebody asked me where I hide my jewelry and knocked on my door randomly, I'm not going to give it to them. So why would I do that in a digital world?
You, I feel like, just listening to it's about being aware
Yeah,
and the realization that no legitimate organization will ever ask you for your personal information under any circumstance.
right. Yeah, that's basically the bottom line here. And there are other steps you can take, because if you visit certain websites sometimes, and we could make this a 2-hour conversation and talk about things like spoofing, where companies take somebody's website and spoofing is when they take a website and make it look exactly the same, but the call letters are different at the top by 1 or 2 letters. So you think you're on one site's website, and then you notice there's, maybe not, it's a .tv instead of a .com, or there's one letter different, like, somebody could do garden savings without the S, and you're not going to notice that right away. So you just need to always be aware. I know it seems tedious, but no matter what website you're visiting, no matter who you do your banking with, look for these little clues of minor differences. Take the 1 or 2 extra seconds just to look at your website, look at your emails, and know that. You can also take steps like purchasing antivirus software and things like that, because there are other ways that, they can, and again, that's a longer conversation, but they can get into your computer when you visit certain websites, if they do things called viruses they put through. So I would always advise people get a good antivirus software. You can get them for, a couple $100, usually, maybe even less these days. So get some decent antivirus software to protect yourself as much as possible. But the bottom line is, be careful, be vigilant, just like anything else. If you're walking at night by yourself, be vigilant, right? You look around. We're all kind of walking at night on these websites.
I mean, this is your money. You worked hard for it. You want to
Yeah,
protect it. And
right.
I mean, if that's not, if your money's not important to you, I don't know what else will be.
Yeah, and we've had it happen, unfortunately, we've had it happen to our members, and, not often, thankfully, and we try and put out a lot of member education about the stuff I'm talking to today. We try and do that regularly to make sure people are aware, but sometimes people don't read things you put out, and they say, oh, but this came from you, and we can look at it in 1 second, and say, this isn't us. This says, garden whatever FC, like, I mean, and people fall for these things. Now, do they always get burnt for money? No, but if you don't catch it right away, odds are you're going to get burnt for something.
The bottom line, be aware, don't put personal information out there. And, if something isn't right, call your bank. Maybe
Yeah.
they, like you
Cool.
said, maybe they can't stop it, but I think they deserve to know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you're helping your others by doing it,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
we'll put it out to
Exactly.
everyone else and do what we can to make sure somebody else doesn't fall victim to the same scam. Fool me once, fool me twice, the saying is. So we
Oh,
try
yeah.
not to
Oh,
we
yeah,
try not to do that.
absolutely.
But I just urge people all the time, anybody I talk to, whenever these questions come up, I'm like, just know that if you don't give it out, no one can take it, right? So if you don't give it out and it's yours, no one can take it from you. And that's the bottom
Yes, don't keep money in your mattress.
line. Yeah, not with rates this high. Rates are still great right now. We still have savings accounts up over 4%, CDs up over 5%. So rates are great right now.
So, again, Garden Saving Federal Credit Union, all the information is going to be in the description. And I'm a customer. They're a supporter of Scan. I think you'll be very happy with the rates and the service. And again, it's your money. Make it work for you. Okay, Mike Powers, CEO, President and CEO of Garden Savings Federal Credit Union today. Thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you very much for having me. It's always a pleasure to speak with you.
I appreciate it. All right, remember out there, if it's important to you, it's important to us. I'm Andrea Tarr. We'll see you next time on Scan FYI. Bye, everyone, and bye, Mike.
Bye.